Fellow Sadzaitas, I'm back again with another update on current affairs as we take a look at Cyclone Tagwirei, the political storm that seems to be shaking ZANU PF. Or so it seems. You see, in Zimbabwe, real power is not always obvious, and it doesn't need a position of authority. Sometimes, a power walks into the room long before authority even realizes what's happening. And as you all know, authority is simply the legal right to call the shots. However, power doesn't always wait for legal right, because power, by definition, is the ability to make things move, with or without authority. In other words, if you can make things happen without a party or government position, then you have power. Party positions and government positions give you authority, but they don't always give you power. We saw this clearly in 2014 when Grace Mugabe, a woman with no party post or government job, stood on rally stages and started attacking a sitting vice president, Joyce Mujuru. Grace Mugabe had zero authority, but she had real power. You see, in ZANU PF, power has always moved faster than titles, faster than authority. And fast forward to the 2020s, the pattern is still the same. Kudakwashe Tagwirei, a businessman, a financier, and newly co-opted into the ZANU PF Central Committee, he holds no senior party office, no cabinet seat, no high-ranking government role, and yet somehow he is everywhere, addressing thousands of ZANU PF supporters, shaping narratives, pledging millions of United States dollars, speaking where only senior party officials usually speak. If Grace Mugabe taught us that a power can exist without position, then Tagwirei is showing us that influence can rise long before authority is officially granted. You see, in Zimbabwean politics, titles don't create power. Power creates titles. So today I ask, what exactly are we watching? Are we watching a loyal mobilizer who is just mobilizing for his friend, ED? Are we watching Tagwirei's preparation for the vice presidency, possibly to replace General Chiwenga maybe? Or are we watching the early steps of a Tagwirei presidency? Well, fellow Sadzaitas, slay queens and bingers, socialites, papalites, vasinamalites, varikudya rice, nevasinama rights. Welcome to the special report. As I said in my intro, in Zimbabwean politics, power doesn't wait for a title. Sometimes the title comes last, long after real power has already announced itself. And if you want proof, rewind to 2014. Before Grace Mugabe ever held a single party position, before she became the Women's League boss, she was already reshaping the political battlefield. With no official title, Grace Mugabe stood on stages across Zimbabwe and publicly attacked a sitting vice president. That's the thing about ZANU PF, you see. Influence often appears before appointment. Power shows itself long before the title arrives. And now, the same pattern is unfolding. But this time around, the name is not Grace. It's Kudakwashe Tagwirei. He holds no government position except chairing the Land's Tenure Implementation Committee. In the party, he is not a Politburo member, He doesn't lead any department. He is simply a co-opted Central Committee member. Yet, since becoming a Central Committee member, he has been moving around addressing party meetings. And he does it with a level of annoying bravado that leaves you thinking he now thinks he is the crown prince. His visibility, his influence, his political reach, they are spreading across ZANU PF at a speed we last experienced during the Grace Mugabe era. Just take a look at the last few weeks. On the 12th of November, he was addressing provincial structures in Harare. This was barely days after joining the Central Committee, by the way. On the 14th of November, he was at Gwanzura Stadium, addressing thousands of party supporters. At that meeting, he declared that tenders must only be given to ZANU PF children. He then pledged $200,000 to the Presidential Empowerment Fund. He also pledged to build 5 clinics and 80 solarized boreholes. On the 16th of November, he was in Kinoi, addressing a PCC meeting. On the 17th of November, he was in Heathcliff, addressing a huge crowd. On that meeting, he tied Zimbabwe's economic narrative directly to Mnangagwa's legacy, positioning himself at the center of the ED project. 18 November, Dzivarasekwa Stadium. More than 20,000 people in attendance. In that meeting, he pledges another $200,000, 80 boreholes, 5 clinics, food hampers, wheelchairs, laptops, funeral policies for war veterans, you name it. This looks deliberate and structured. A visibility campaign, a narrative building mission. Are we watching ED's succession plan take shape? And more importantly, are we witnessing an ideological shift in ZANU PF in terms of power matrix? You see, for 44 years, leadership in ZANU PF was built on liberation credentials. If you were in the struggle, you carried the gun, you survived the camps, then that was your passport to power. In fact, for someone with a military background, liberation credentials weren't just a passport. They were an emergency travel document to power, an ETD, a political shortcut. It's what made Chiwenga vice president straight from the barracks, and why he believes that he is the rightful heir to ED. He wants to use his ETD to succeed PED, a P for president. But slowly and silently, it seems a new kind of credential is emerging. Money, business muscle, financing the party. I mean, senior party officials are no longer hiding it. Webster Shamu recently openly said that Tagwirei bankrolled the ZANU PF 2013 campaign.
Kuti tizo win my election and that for the first time in public at 2013. Munhu watakamira naye achitidzigira tiri kukomizari tiwane fuel tiwane mari yekufambisa ndava Tagwirei.
He actually said without Tagwirei's money, ZANU PF wouldn't have won the 2013 elections. Not only that, Justice Minister Ziambi, in his response to the Chiwenga dossier, said that Tagwirei financed the 2017 military coup. He said he provided 5 million liters of fuel, food supplies, and up to $1.6 million to ZANU PF. So, if one businessman can bankroll a winning election campaign and finance a military coup, what does that mean inside the liberation movement like ZANU PF? It means Zimbabwe might be shifting from Takasimu Zagidi to takasimudza checkbook. From Chimurenga credentials to checkbook credentials. A shift from liberation politics to business politics. And this shift isn't unique to Zimbabwe, by the way. I mean, look at Mozambique. The ruling party of Mozambique, Frelimo, is now led by a born-free, Daniel Chapo, the first leader with no liberation credentials in Mozambique. Not necessarily because he bought authority with money, but because a generational change finally arrived in Mozambique. Is this what's coming to Zimbabwe? Or is just a downright Chiganandarism? The Mbinga syndrome. Tagwirei has the benefit of being Mnangagwa's friend. And by many accounts, he is ED's preferred successor, if it ever came to that. And make no mistake, if ED stepped down, he would want someone he trusts to take over from him. Someone who can protect his interests. Because you see, former presidents don't always enjoy peaceful retirements. Just look at Zambia. Chiluba versus Kaunda. Mwanawasa versus Chiluba. HH versus Lungu. The same is true in South Africa. Ramaphosa versus Zuma. Oh, what about Botswana? Masisi versus Ian Khama. Even ED himself. His own relationship with Robert Mugabe was complicated. So do you honestly think that ED would feel safe under a Chiwenga presidency? After everything that has happened? Is he not much safer under a Tagwirei presidency? Are we not seeing ED's success plan in motion? Notice I said success plan. I didn't say succession plan. What Tagwirei is doing is no longer just business. It's no longer just philanthropy. It's no longer just proximity to power. It's no longer just bankrolling the party either. This is political movement, political messaging, political visibility, a political arc rising fast, too fast to ignore. And I already hear some of you shouting, Tafi, shut up, you're a liar. Tagwirei has never said that he wants to be president. Well, you are 100% correct. He hasn't. But he doesn't need to. Did Mnangagwa ever stand up and announce his presidential ambition under Mugabe? Of course not. He didn't. Ambition in ZANU PF is never declared. It is demonstrated. Demonstrated through rallies, pledges, narratives, and money. But on the flip side, ZANU PF is full of surprises, ladies and gentlemen. Things aren't what they always seem. Remember, in November 2017, literally days before the coup, 9 out of 10 ZANU PF provinces had already passed resolutions endorsing Grace Mugabe as the next vice president of ZANU PF. All 10 provinces unanimously endorsed the expulsion of Emmerson Mnangagwa. Politburo members were seen on stages shouting, "Pasina Emmerson Boda Jampa Mnangagwa! Pasina Emmerson Boda Jampa Mnangagwa!" Youths were burning ED posters and singing, "Gushungo chete chete, Gushungo chete chete, Munuwese guna amai." 1 week later, the same provinces, the same structures, readmitted ED into the party as president and expelled Grace Mugabe, declaring her a witch who tried to kill the crocodile. That's all you need to know about momentum in ZANU PF. Noises are cheap. Structures don't make decisions in ZANU PF. They are simply used as instruments by those with power to effect changes. Everything can flip the moment the people with guns or the people with real money decide it's time. So yes, right now, Tagwirei looks unstoppable. But he only looks unstoppable because ED is still alive and still in charge. Remove ED tomorrow, whether by resignation, by nature, or by the 2017 style events, and immediately you will see how fast these same crowds will start shouting, "Pasi na Tagwirei, pasi nezvigananda, ED ngaende, 2030 anengasipo." In ZANU PF, loyalty is not to an individual. Loyalty is to whoever is winning today. In other words, loyalty kune arikurira, kana kuti irikurira, kana kuti zvirikurira. Eish, zvezanu zvandikurira. But whatever happens, whether Tagwirei rises or gets thrown under the same bus that carried Grace, I'll be here to marinate you with all the details without fear or favor, because on this platform, we say it as it is. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy the content, please like and share.